While they walked out, I walked in. Someone has to tell the truth.
The Pentagon has effectively silenced independent journalism.
These new rules are censorship, plain and simple.
The Pentagon press corps just got a reality check they will never forget. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth implemented new accountability rules that sent over 30 news outlets into complete meltdown. And here's what's incredible. These rules are actually reasonable. I mean, think about it. Reporters can't just wander into the Oval Office whenever they want, right? They need clearance, escorts, and accountability. But somehow the Pentagon became a free-for-all where journalists roamed classified hallways like they owned the place. When Hegseth demanded basic security protocols, the media acted like democracy was dying. What really happened, though? The establishment press lost their backdoor access to leak classified information and spin war narratives. The walkout, historic, and the tantrum, predictable. We've got it all, so keep watching. But did you know that gold has gone mainstream? You're seeing it everywhere, and prices keep climbing. Every day, more Americans are catching on to the power of gold. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Noble Gold specialists help investors go from confused to confident. Whether you're rolling over an old 401k into gold IRA or want physical coins and bars delivered home, Noble Gold makes the process simple. Visit Next News Gold today to claim your free wealth protection kit and see if you qualify for that silver bonus. You see it on the screen. Or you can call 877-646-5347 and tell them Gary Franchi said hello. Now, right on cue, Brian Stelter on CNN. Brian Stelter! Pentagon beat reporters have been handing in their press passes all day long today. It's one of the most striking examples of news media solidarity we've seen this year.
Radical new policy. Reporters have been showing up at the Pentagon today and handing in their press passes. This is an extraordinary moment showing that the Pentagon is not changing, not backing away from this drastic radical new policy. And the news outlets, the reporters, the editors, the media lawyers who said this is unacceptable, they're not changing their tune either. So all the major networks, all the major wire service and newspaper reporters who cover the Pentagon day in, day out are turning in their credentials. And essentially, as of tomorrow, you won't have those journalists able to work out of the Pentagon complex anymore.
No, they can work. See what he said? You catch that? They can work. They just have to sign the pledge, right? So think about this. Let's pull it back for a second. You've got mainstream media who loves to spin lies and hate Trump all day long. They're getting classified leaks inside the Pentagon. Well, guess what? Now those leaks are going to disappear. They're not going to, even if they were there, because now they're not going to have access to those classified areas of the building. And what's even better is now independent outlets will be the ones who are going to say, you know what, we're going to go in. If you guys won't, we will. Right? Like Next News Network. Sure, fine, we'll go in. We'll get the scoop. You guys won't. Am I right? Are you following me on this one here? Oh, it's just the beginning. President Trump, though, just a couple hours ago. Oh, it's a classic Trump. Watch this.
Yeah, please.
Following up on that,
I didn't say you. You CNN fake news. Go ahead.
President Trump refuses to take questions from CNN. You're fake news. Oh, Caitlin Collins probably burning up there. Fake news media reporters. Here's the video. Walking out of the Pentagon after refusing to sign new press rule agreements. Bye-bye. News outlets refused to sign the new press rules that replaced a long-standing, what was that? Replaced a long-standing one-page agreement. Look at them all. So I guess they're just going to be out of a job? What are they going to do? Here's more. Pentagon gave reporters an ultimatum, sign new restrictive press rules by Tuesday or lose access by Wednesday. Every major news outlet has rejected the demand. And Amy McGrath writes, kudos to these journalists for not allowing the government to silence them. A free press keeps power in check, and the moment we let government decide who gets to ask questions, we all lose our voice. Well, that's why you have Pentagon briefings. That's why there's a Pentagon briefing room. That's where the press is allowed to go. Like when I go to the White House, I just can't walk into the Oval Office. No, I cannot. I can't walk, willy-nilly through the White House, wherever I want to go. There are clear, defined areas where I can go. And the press briefing room is where the press gets to ask all the questions they want. So while they're complaining that they can't go into the Pentagon wherever they want to go, they still have access. It's just they don't have access to the working areas of the Pentagon. Okay, so let's listen to this guy. Let's see. Let's see.
Position on everything. Kudos to the media outlets for standing up for our democracy.
I said this guy. Whoops. Definitely got the pronoun wrong on that one.
And freedom of the press. In a world where we are seeing so many institutions cave to the intimidation by the federal government and the Trump administration, there were no major media networks who agreed to Pete Hegseth's demand for capitulation. Hegseth demanded that media outlets agree to not publish any material about the Defense Department, even if it were unclassified, unless it was authorized by the department. Seriously. He wanted basically to turn media outlets into government propagandists. He set a deadline of last night for members of the press to sign to agree to be vessels of Trump's propaganda or risk handing over their press badges. No one signed it, thankfully, because it's an assault on freedom of the press, something that our military, by the way, has fought to protect for over 200 years. That freedom is enshrined in our Constitution, by the way. America, we don't want a bunch of authoritarian newspapers only touting our government's position on everything. Like we're living in some...
Like, what's an authoritarian newspaper? You mean like the New York Times? Like CNN?
Communist China or the Soviet Union. So, bravo to the press corps for not caving. We must all not cave right now. Choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. Stand, not with fear, but with honor. Kudos.
As a reporter, like I get the want for access, but at the same time, like I was talking with Todd before this show today, we were talking about this topic, and it was very clear that you have access, but you don't have access to the entire freaking building. Here's President Trump 48 hours ago speaking about the new press policy at the Pentagon.
I appreciate the question.
Will you consider removing new restrictions on the press that report at the Pentagon? And have you spoken to Secretary Hegseth about this?
I have, yeah. Well, he's finding, I think I can speak for him. I'll let him speak for himself, but I think he finds the press to be very disruptive in terms of world peace and maybe security for our nation. Press is very dishonest. Not you, but the press is very dishonest. You have something to say, Pete?
Well, I very much appreciate the question because it was interesting to watch. We had a chance to go along on the historic trip of Middle East peace, which our generation of veterans never dreamed would be possible. So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace, and instead what they want to talk about is a policy about them, which simply says maybe the policy should look like the White House or other military installations where you have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, or you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon, the most classified area in the world. Or also that if they sign on to the credentialing, they're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff, Mr. President. We're trying to make sure national security is respected, and we're proud of the policy.
We have an option here, as you know, the press years ago moved into the White House. It used to be across the street. We could move them. You're lucky I'm president, because we could move them very easily across the street. They used to be there. They would have more room. We have a beautiful, nice space. You can sit all by yourselves and have fun. Instead, you walk around the White House talking to anybody that can breathe. And, but I find that when it comes to war, and now our great Department of War, we have some great people over there, I think it bothers me to have soldiers and even, high-ranking generals walking around with you guys on their sleeve, asking them, because they can make a mistake, and a mistake can be tragic. They can do it innocently too. They can, And they're not press people. They don't really deal with the press, so they're not really necessarily good at it. Although I think it's mostly instinctual one way or the other. You're either good at things or you're not. But I could see you being bothered by that. And so you have them in an area and you treat them fairly, but they're not allowed to go into
Much like the
somebody's office and sit with them for 10 hours.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Will you consider removing new restrictions?
Much like the what? Yeah, like the White House. And they're complaining. Here we have the American Voice. 24 hours ago, Pete Hegseth, Pentagon press reforms are a bold strike against the fake news machine. It's plagued our military for years. Tired of leaks and spin from biased hacks who prioritize gotchas over national security. These rules demand accountability, report facts, not fiction. Critics cry spoon-feeding, but real patriots know it's about protecting America first. Even Fox pushing back, but Hegseth's got the guts to drain the swamp. Let's check in. This is ABC.
Protection. Talk about the Pentagon and covering the Pentagon. There are these new stipulations, new rules that have been put out, and we in the media, along with all the networks and also newspapers, had a media statement to respond. It was due today, and here it is. Today we join virtually every other news organization in declining to agree to the Pentagon's new requirements, which would restrict journalists' abilities to keep the nation and the world informed of important national security issues. The policy is without precedent and threatens core journalistic protections. We will continue to cover the U.S. military, as each of our organizations has done for many decades, upholding the principles of a free and independent press. That's ABC News, CBS News, CNN, Fox News Media, and NBC News signing that. Here is the Secretary of War at the cabinet meeting in his interpretation of what all this means.
You have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, or you can't just roam anywhere you onto the credentialing. They're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common classified area in the world. Or also that if they sign on to the credentialing, they're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff.
Kind of simplified it there than what's on the paper. I covered the Pentagon for 6.5 years. I covered the White House for 4 years. I covered the Pentagon when you were there.
Yeah, right.
And we knew not to, you don't walk into the tank, and the classified areas are off limits. We obviously were always trying to get the story from different elements, and there was a freedom, but everybody had badges with them. At the White House, I never walked into the Oval Office or the Situation Room. These are stipulations that essentially are changing the dynamic about how to get information and how they disseminate information.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like the whole story is being told to our viewers here. What they're really doing, they want to spoon feed information to the journalists, and that will be their story. That's not journalism. Journalism is going out and finding the story and getting all the facts to support it. And no one's going to
talk about the Pentagon and covering the Pentagon. There are these new
A lot of butthurt in the mainstream media today. Ben Ferguson brings the truth to Newsnight with Abby Phillip about the Pentagon new press rules. There are a lot of people that are in the media that are operatives for the Democrat Party. Oh, it all becomes clear, doesn't it?
Put out propaganda. I'm a member of the media as a talk show host. I want to have access. I think one of the big things, though, that people are underestimating is the American people look at a lot of the media now as not actually members of the media. They look at them as people that put out propaganda for one side. And there are a lot of people that are in the media that are operatives for the Democratic Party.
Well,
I don't think you're going to see
in that, because you just described yourself as a
I'm
member
open
of
and
the
honest
media.
about who I am. I'm a hardcore conservative. I don't masquerade as a non-biased individual who's doing hit pieces all the time on conservatives.
Sure, but I don't think conservatives, I'm
a member of the media.
See, that's the difference. I don't lie about my bias. Okay, I don't pretend to be some impartial reporter. I have opinions. I present them. I react to the news. I present it. But of course, you know, the mainstream press has become a wing of the Democrat Party, continually spewing Democrat talking points. Real America's Voice 14 hours ago asked the question, should the Pentagon press pool be allowed in classified areas? Secretary of War Pete Hegseth established new guidelines for the Pentagon press pool. Here is some reaction. Monica Page reporting from the White House.
But I mean,
you happened to be at the Pentagon today. Tell us what you were doing, what we can look forward to, and also some of the other new. You may have been the last reporter in the Pentagon, possibly. Monica Page, Turning Point's White House correspondent.
Joma, it was so cool. Okay, so it was completely like it wasn't even planned. But I mean, the interview that I had with the press secretary of the Department of War, Kingsley Wilson, that was planned. But unbeknownst to us, they would be telling the members of the press who cover the Pentagon, you better clear out your workspace by 5 p.m. Eastern time, or we're gonna call security and get you out of here ourselves. Essentially, why that is the way it is, there's a huge memo going around on social media. I'm sure many of our audience have seen it. It's the Department of War saying, listen, here are specific guidelines to cover the Pentagon, and here's how you can avoid getting in trouble, essentially. There are specific wings and areas of the Pentagon where press and reporters can access, and there are many places where they cannot access. And when I was speaking to the press secretary, she told me she kind of likened it and compared it to how we cover the White House here. You wouldn't just waltz into Secretary Pete Hegseth's office on any day, just like we wouldn't just waltz into the Oval Office and look for President Trump. That's just not how things work. A lot of the things that happen and are discussed are very classified material at the Pentagon. It's highly confidential, and it's just a national security risk to have any sort of reporter running around, wandering, roaming through the walls and the halls of the Pentagon. So they're saying, listen, if you want specific interviews, contact us. We're happy to give you more information. If you still want to cover the Pentagon, you can do so from your bureau, but please sign on and just acknowledge that you understand our new rules. And of course, the mainstream media is just kind of blowing it out of proportion, saying this is an attack on our First Amendment rights as reporters, as journalists, but essentially it's common sense rules. You shouldn't be wandering the halls of Raising Cane's office and wandering around Pete Hegseth's office. That's just not how you should be conducting yourself, especially as a journalist. You should be going about things the right way, asking for permission for interviews. What can we expect? Get more information. But essentially, I'm very excited to share that interview with you guys as it comes out. We just did the interview today with the Department of War Press Secretary Kingsley Wilson.
Yeah, so with the big vacancy now, independent press is going to be all over it. Here is the Pentagon briefing room. And it looks like that's going to be pretty empty from now on, except for a few holdouts like independent press.
Have their Pentagon. At least 30 news organizations declined to sign a new Pentagon access policy with added restrictions for journalists ahead of a Tuesday deadline. The new policy says journalists could be branded security risks and have their Pentagon press badges revoked if they ask department employees to disclose classified and some types of unclassified information. Reuters is among the outlets that have refused to sign, citing the threat posed to press freedoms. All 5 major U.S. broadcast networks issued a joint statement on Tuesday, saying the policy was, quote, without precedent and threatens core journalistic protections, and that it would restrict journalists' ability to report on national security issues. The new rules followed weeks of negotiations with Pentagon officials. A lawyer familiar with those talks said the requirement that reporters acknowledge that disclosure of sensitive information could harm U.S. national security could aid
Sounds like it's a bunch of common sense to me. Here's more. 11 hours ago, press badges down, reporters walking out. The world's most powerful military just picked a fight with the Fourth Estate. Dozens of journalists from CNN to The Guardian to Fox News turned in their Pentagon press badges and walked out after the new rules. Here's some of the video from that.
On the AP wire, right?
Yeah.
Look at them. They've got cardboard boxes, signs. I wonder where their fake plants are.
On the AP wire, right?
Here's some of the pictures from the hallways. Wow, they're literally moving out. Like they have moving teams in there. Dollies taking things out. Fox News, Reuters, CBS. Look at that. They're taking down their signage and everything. Holy cow. They got all of the boxes. Damn. They got the soundproofing. They're taking that down too. Holy cow. Well, like I said, it's going to create a vacuum. And you're going to have more honest reporting. But unfortunately, what will happen is that this is going to spite the media. And because most of the media is left-wing Democrat operatives, the hate reporting is only going to amplify. Here is Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. This is back on October 5th, cracking down on the leaks and the fake news reporters roaming the Pentagon whenever they want. This is October 5th now. This is about 11 days ago.
In the press area, our own civilians who can never be party to leaking, we're setting clear rules at the Pentagon. We're not playing games. We're not allowing everybody to roam around the building. You know, that was the policy before, Peter. If you were a Pentagon reporter, you could just walk around the building. No badge, no escort, no nothing. Walk into offices, talk to anybody. Who knows where there's classified information. We're making the rules more like you might say the White House. Can you roam the White House wherever you want?
Typically not without getting a Secret Service guy up in my grill.
So we're just normalizing it. Yes, you can be in the press area, briefing room, but if you want to move around the building, you're going to have a badge. It's going to be clear. You're going to be escorted when you do so, and we have expectation that you're not soliciting classified or sensitive information. I think the American people see things like that as absolute common sense. The Pentagon press corps can squeal all they want. We're taking these things seriously. They can report. They just need to make sure they're following rules.
All they got to do is follow the rules, but apparently they don't want to follow the rules, so they're all walking out. Journalists who cover the Pentagon had to choose between sending a pledge that would make it impossible to do independent journalism and turning in the Pentagon badges. Almost all of them turned in their badges and left the building. CNN reporters showing up at the Pentagon today, handing in their press passes. CNN says this is an extraordinary moment. They're hyperventilating. Well, like I said, this leaves a massive vacuum for us to fill the void. If they won't report, we will. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. You see, this is what draining the swamp looks like in real time. For years, Pentagon reporters acted like they had security clearances, wandering through classified areas, cultivating leaker sources, turning our military headquarters into their personal gossip mill. President Trump and Pete Hegseth just ended that circus. And you know what? Imagine how much better Pentagon coverage will be without all the hostile mainstream media spinning every military decision into an anti-Trump hit piece. No more anonymous sources, no more strategic leaks designed to undermine our troops. Just facts, accountability, and reporters who actually respect operational security. The media's mass walkout proves they were never interested in journalism. They wanted unfettered access to sabotage Trump's military agenda. So here's the real question. Should reporters need security clearances to access classified areas of the Pentagon? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments. And Patriots, if you want to support real journalism, hit the merch shop. It's linked down below.